Hello everyone and welcome to another segment of Doors Update News, the only place where you can find a dude talking about a couple of images for way too long. Today, I want to discuss one of the potential new entities that could be added to Doors in a future update. Essentially, the developers confirmed that some scrapped content will be added back into the game, likely with changes in the upcoming updates. And seeing how entities are such a major part of the gameplay, I think there's a high chance for any that were scrapped to be reintroduced. Now, I will admit, I have mentioned this new entity before in a previous video of mine, but I only briefly touched up on it, and in this video I'll be giving a full in-depth analysis of what we know about it so far. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so this is Alma, a strange ghost-like creature that was leaked when the back door was still in development. A little fun fact about Alma, but that word actually means soul in Portuguese, but that really isn't relevant. Now, Alma here is unique in the sense that we practically know what their function is, well, at least back then. You see, given how not only was Alma created during the time period the back door was being developed, but how they also appear strikingly similar to the Lookman entity, seeing how they are both these spirit-like humanoids, I think there's a good chance for Alma to have been an old version of the Lookman who was scrapped in favor of the current version. Now, upon hearing that, you might be thinking, Cheddar, that's a cool piece of trivia and all, but if Alma was the old design for the Lookman and it was removed because a better version of the entity was created, why would it be added back? Well, there are a couple of reasons as to why I think Elma may return to the game. For one, a similar situation to the one we are in is occurring as we speak. If you recall, this upcoming leaked entity with the codename of Abraham Lincoln is very obviously based on the old designs of Figure. So seeing how one revamped version of an entity's beta design is being added, why can't another? Additionally, Alma and the current Lookman design are vastly different from each other, as both have completely different color schemes, and Alma has a ton of tentacles whereas the Lookman is simply just a humanoid, meaning it's possible for both to exist and not be identical. So, although it's not technically confirmed that Alma will be overhauled and reintroduced into Doors, there is a good chance that they could be, especially given how the developers are looking to add scrapped content back into the game. Anyways, moving on, I'd now like to discuss some of the interesting quirks of Alma. Essentially, unlike almost every 2D entity in the game, Alma has 4 versions of itself, each with somewhat drastic positioning changes from each other. Now, in total, there are 3 main reasons as to why this could be the case, the first of which being that only one will be added to the game, whereas the rest are simply just prototypes. It isn't uncommon for Roblox developers to upload prototype assets in order to test how they would look in-game. And given how the 4th variation of Alma is drastically different from the rest, it could be possible that the other 3 were simply uploaded just to see how they would look, but they were scrapped in favor of the 4th variation. The second reason could be that these variations of Alma are actually frames of animation. Essentially, by alternating a few images rapidly, it appears as if it is actually moving. This is similar to how a flipbook works. So it could be that when Alma was planned to be added to the game, they would be animated to appear as if they were wriggling around. Personally, I believe that the second option is the most likely, but the third one is definitely the most intriguing. You see, when you crucify Dread, a 2D entity, they will actually play a unique animation of them glitching out and shaking. No other 2D entity has a crucifixion animation, but what if this wasn't going to be the case? Although I don't personally believe this theory, some people think that the Alma variations would be used as animation frames solely for when the entity was crucified. Additionally, others believe that these frames would appear if you were about to crucify the Lookman, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as both entities are physically vastly different from each other, and how you can't even get a crucifix on the Lookman given how they appear in the back door. Now, I will admit, it definitely is intriguing to think that Alma could have a crucifixion animation. But given how it appears that they were a beta version of the Lookman, an entity that appears in a subfloor which can't contain the crucifix, I doubt these variations of Alma would have been used for that and instead think the entity simply would have always been animated, not just when being crucified. So, now when we know it's likely that Alma is simply just an animated ghost thing, do we know anything about its functionality if it were to be added back into the game? Well, given how it appears this entity was an old version of the Lookman, it could possibly be that their functionality would be based on that. What I mean is, given how the Lookman is named after and has a functionality based on eyesight, I think it's possible that Alma could have something similar. For example, what if upon looking at Alma, you would be temporarily blinded? Normally, this wouldn't be an issue, but if they were present alongside other entities, it could create a deadly situation, as you wouldn't be able to see your surroundings. Or what if they will attack you if and only if they spot you, meaning you'd have to avoid their eyesight to prevent being killed? Really, there isn't enough information to pinpoint how they would work if they were added back into the game, but we can speculate a little. So, to summarize, Alma is most likely the beta version of the Lookman who could potentially be added back into the game, albeit with a few changes. They would not only likely be animated, which typically isn't seen in 2D entities, but they would also likely have mechanics based on eyesight, or something like that. Other than that, there isn't too much to know about this creature. So, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of this entity, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.